Member for Vancouver East.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very pleased to rise in the House today to speak now at report stage, the first hour of debate for Bill C-314. And again, I'd like to congratulate the member from Barrie from bringing forward this bill. And I certainly agree that when we bring forward private members' business, whether it's a bill or a motion, it is an opportunity for each of us to show initiative, to bring forward an issue for greater awareness and hopefully support in the House to actually make an advancement. And certainly on this issue in terms of women's health and the issue that is still unfortunately too little known about women who live with dense breast tissue and may not be aware themselves of their higher risk and what they need to be aware of. So we very much appreciate this bill coming forward. Mr. Speaker, when we were at committee, we did hear a number of really fantastic witnesses, and I would agree with my colleague that the witnesses who came forward and shared their own personal experience with us is very compelling because it really tells you, where things are at and what it is that we need to do. But one thing that did strike me at the committee was the witness who talked about innovation and new technologies and the fact that there is technology available that will assist women 100% with dense breast tissue. And it really made me feel very concerned that even if women are aware of that, they may not be able to access it because of where they live. It may be very far to travel, but most importantly, they may not be able to afford the fees and the fact that it's basically a private service that one would undertake. And it seems to me to run very contrary to the fundamental principles of the Canada Health Act, which talks about universality, accessibility, public administration, comprehensiveness, and so on. So that one thing did stick out in my mind. And Mr. Speaker, I do want to put on the record here in the House at report stage that the NDP, we do support the bill, but our concerns in committee, especially after we heard from the witnesses, is that we felt the bill really was quite limited in its scope. It does talk about information, it does talk about information sharing, it does talk about best practices and creating better awareness. And obviously, clearly, all of those things are an absolute must. They're a given, but they're sort of the bottom floor. And for us in the NDP, when we heard the witnesses, we really felt that we needed to go some extra distance with the bill. And we did actually introduce a whole number of amendments. And actually, the one that I think was probably the most significant was an amendment that said working in collaboration with provincial and territorial governments to establish national standards for systematic breast cancer screening. Unfortunately, that amendment and all the other amendments were defeated, and so it was a bit disheartening that all of the amendments put forward in good faith, I think, from the opposition parties at the committee were just turned down. And I don't think they were beyond the scope of the bill. And so I think it's unfortunate because we have an opportunity with this bill to do something, and while, again, I concur that information and awareness are very important, it seems to me that we could be doing so much more. I think we're now more aware of what women are at risk. I believe that this bill will help get a message out, and that's very important. But we in the NDP, we do believe that there should be a nationwide breast cancer systematic screening program for all women. It should be free of charge, and it should be by self-referral. And I would point out that it's quite alarming to note that, for example, there's no screening program in Nunavut. And so this seems to be a very glaring omission, and it speaks very strongly for the need to have a nationwide systematic screening program, and more than that, that there should be standards for screening. We did hear this a number of times at the committee, that even where if a woman has gone beyond a mammogram and she's going for an ultrasound, we did hear from practitioners that even that can be very problematic. It depends on how experienced the practitioner is doing the ultrasound. It's something that can be, I won't use the word, it's not about human error, but it's a very delicate procedure in terms of what it is that you're looking for. And so we did hear, which was a surprise to me, that even if women are going through an ultrasound, that it may not identify the fact that they are at risk or that they have a risk for breast cancer, or that there may be cancer that's present. And similarly, we heard that for things like MRIs, which I think, we all think, wow, isn't that great? You go for an MRI and everything's going to, they'll have this real window on what's going on and you'll get it figured out. Well, we did hear again that even with an MRI for women with dense breast tissue, that it may not necessarily pick up what their particular situation is. And this is how we got to hearing from the witness who talked about this newest technology, which involves basically 360-degree imaging. I don't remember the name of the technology. Somebody else maybe does. So to me, that speaks to a lack of available screening. It speaks to a lack of national standards to ensure that across the country that all the existing programs that are there, that they're done in a way that wherever you are in this country, you can be assured that you're getting the highest quality screening and care. And it seems to me that under the Canada Health Act that I just mentioned, this is something that we believe is very much a part of our healthcare system. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to be negative, but this bill, in as far as it goes, is mostly about information and awareness, and that's a really important thing. But I really feel like we missed an opportunity to do a lot more with this bill, and there were opportunities at the committee that were put forward, but unfortunately the government members decided not to vote on those particular amendments. So here we are now at report stage with a bill that is quite limited in its scope, but I'm happy to say that, of course, we will support this bill because it is a step, and I think even if we're providing much better awareness about dense breast tissue, because I wasn't aware of it before I heard about the bill, so certainly the members' bill, for all of us, has been something that has been an eye-opener and has brought greater awareness, and for that it's something that's commendable, and we certainly support it. But I sure wish that we had been able to strengthen the bill in the way that we wanted, and I sure wish that we could have responded to what we heard from the witnesses, who made very good suggestions to the committee, Mr. Speaker, that were taken up by members of the committee, but as I say, were not approved. Now, maybe at some point we'll get another opportunity and there'll be another bill and we can go further. But it seems to me that, when we hear from people at the committee, we should do our utmost to respond to what they say. We should listen in good faith. We should listen to their suggestions, and where it's possible for us to incorporate those ideas and recommendations in a way that's realistic within a private member's bill, then why on earth wouldn't we do that? So that's my only regret, Mr. Speaker, but otherwise I certainly appreciate the member putting this forward and having gotten it this far. I'm sure that the bill will be approved. So let us all make a commitment in this House today to not only support this bill, but to advocate for a nationwide breast cancer screening program, to make sure that the women in Nunavut actually have access to even the most basic kind of screening. It is 2012, and so even for them to have the most basic kind of access is something that's very important, and that we need to address the issue of standards for screening to ensure that where there are these unique challenges of detecting cancer in women, particularly women with dense breast tissue, that they're getting the very best that they can get so that their their risk is lowered and not increased. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Resuming debate, the